Hey folks, see if you've ever had this problem. You're trying to eat a little healthier, but you're in the grocery store aisle, you're looking at packaging, nutrition labels, and they're so confusing, you don't know what's good for you and what's not. Well, this is why I love Thrive Market, my go-to online grocery store for getting all of my healthy essentials delivered, and I don't even have to leave my couch. Finding better options for the whole family is easy with Thrive Market's Healthy Swap Scanner. Just scan a product and it instantly recommends healthier swaps. This is how my wife and I found our new favorite snack, IQ bars. Sometimes I eat one in the morning with my coffee, sometimes just later on in between meals. They also have so many on-site filters that make it simple to shop by the needs of everyone in the family. Maybe you have someone who needs gluten-free food, somebody that has a peanut allergy. Well, no more scouring ingredient labels when you can just filter it all on Thrive Market. My wife and I often use the high protein filter to stock up on things like Sieti chips. Ready to make the switch? Go to thrivemarket.com/TCAT for 30% off your first order, plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/TCATT. thrivemarket.com/TCAT. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 416 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
We just talked about it on Patreon. You know, we both had good holidays.
We did.
You know, Christmas, New Year's.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, the New Year is always strange. It used to be when I was in school or, you know, working, I would always have trouble with writing the new year.
Yeah.
You know, the date.
Sure.
I don't write dates that much anymore, you know, in my current line of work, but I don't know what it is. You know, you think about 2025, when you and I were kids, that would have been something you would have seen in a science fiction movie.
Absolutely.
You know, way into the future. And it was 40 some years into the future when we were kids. But yeah, here we are.
Think about where we are now with smartphones and AI and all that other stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Kim Lechner.
Hey, Kim.
Matt.
What's going on, Matt?
Alicia Russ.
Well, thanks, Alicia.
Melanie Shepard.
Hey, Melanie.
Kyle.
Good old Kyle.
AJ Kalasak.
Well, hey, cow sack.
Ange C and the Big D.
Well, thanks, Ange C and that big D.
Which on Patreon you thought meant Detroit.
I did.
In all honesty.
You corrected me.
We had Lavana Meadows.
What's going on, Lavana?
Matt Davis.
Hey, Matt Davis.
Rose.
Rose.
Tony.
Oh, what up, yo, Tony?
Tony.
Tony.
And last but not least, Howard Horn jumped down to our highest level.
Well, thanks, Howard.
Yeah, appreciate all the new support. And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Insane Kane.
Well, thanks, Kane.
Yeah, appreciate the continued support as well. We also had a really large PayPal donation from our very, very good friend, Melinda Wargacki.
Wargacki.
Yeah.
It's fun to say.
Yeah, so she's just down the street from us, not that far. And such a great person, comes to CrimeCon with her husband. I met him. He's a cool guy too. So we appreciate it very much. So Gibbs, right now we have a brand new episode out on True Crime All the Time Unsolved, where we're talking about the Mad Trapper of Rat River. Sounds like a good title for a movie.
Yeah, it does, actually.
But this was a Canadian fugitive who killed 2 RCMP officers. The man was killed by a posse. and they identified this guy, but investigators believe the identification was wrong. They believe it was an alias. So, the mystery is really around, who truly was the Mad Trapper. And it's been a mystery that's endured for, almost 100 years.
Very interesting case.
Yeah. Make sure you check it out. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time?
I am.
We're talking about the murder of Cari Farver. Cari Farver went missing in November 2012 after spending the night at her new boyfriend's house. Days after she disappeared, her boyfriend began receiving harassing and threatening text messages. Investigators came to believe Cari was not actually sending these messages, and they ultimately identified an unlikely suspect. So a little bit of a mystery here to start out. I don't want to give away, right, who the killer is, but I definitely want to talk about Cari Farver. Cari was a single mother who worked as a computer programmer in Omaha, Nebraska. Cari's mother, Nancy Rainey, said she was diagnosed with depression in her late 20s, a few years after she had her son. Cari was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She went to therapy and was prescribed medication. And there were some times when she stopped taking it, but it was said by her mother that in 2012, Cari was in a good place and was working her dream job.
So by all accounts, pretty happy.
Yeah, I think she was doing good. I mean, she obviously experienced some mental health issues.
Sure.
She went to get treated. She was prescribed medication. A lot of people with bipolar disorder, they have to take that medication.
Oh, it's critical.
And if they don't, their behavior can change dramatically. I think I've said it before, but I used to work with a guy who was very open about his bipolar disorder. And you could tell day by day whether or not he had taken his medication.
Yeah.
And if I asked him about it, because I saw that, he was acting a little differently, he would be very honest and say, yeah, I forgot to take it today.
And you're like, can you go home and take it, please?
It was noticeable.
Yeah.
In October 2012, Cari met Dave Krupa at the auto repair shop he managed in Omaha. Dave moved to the area earlier that year after recently separating from his long-term girlfriend, Amy Flora. Dave and Amy had been together since 2000, and they had 2 children. They gradually grew apart over the years. Now, sources didn't really go into detail about the breakup, but it seems as though it was fairly amicable. Amy moved to Omaha with the kids, and Dave moved closer to them. And I could see a lot of dads doing that. You're in this relationship, you have kids together, the relationship fizzles out, and you decide to break it off. Well, one of the individuals wants to move somewhere else with the kids.
Yeah.
Now, depending on how far that is, you can see a lot of people wanting to be closer. They want to be able to see their kids.
Of course they do. Yeah.
They don't want to have to drive 3 hours or 2 states over. So, hey, going to make the decision to move closer to where they are so I can see them more often. So Dave moves and he signed up for some dating websites. The first person he met was a woman named Shanna Elizabeth Gollier, who goes by the nickname Liz. Dave and Liz started dating in the late spring or early summer of 2012. During their first date, Liz told Dave that she was also a single mother of 2 kids who were similar in age to Dave's. Dave thought, this is a woman who was down to earth, energetic, and full of life. She owned a cleaning company and was described as an animal lover. They were both interested in motorcycles, heavy metal, and sci-fi movies.
So they have a lot of things in common.
Yeah. I mean, it seems as though they did. Now, I think we've talked about this before. I am not familiar with dating websites because when I got married, the internet was just a little tiny baby.
Yeah.
It was definitely, if there was dating websites, I was not using them.
Yeah.
I think they've come a long way. I could see a guy like Dave, right? He moves to a new place. He's now single and okay, he wants to meet someone. And I guess that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
In the old days, you would just go to a bar or go to church
or the grocery store
or something like that and hope to run into somebody.
Yeah.
According to Dave, he made it clear from the first date that he wasn't looking for anything serious.
Got to set those expectations right from the beginning.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, again, do you want to lead someone on? And I would say definitely not. You know, if you're meeting someone for the first time, you're striking up a relationship, and that person is looking for, marriage, kids, and that's not you, you better make that clear right off the bat.
Yeah, probably a very important conversation to have.
Yeah. Their relationship escalated, and they started sleeping together by the fourth date, but Dave was honest. And he told Liz he still wanted to see other women. Okay.
Well, you can't blame him for honesty.
No, it seems like he was very honest. I just always wonder how those conversations go. Now, I get it. We're not exclusive.
Right.
I can imagine there's some people who would be okay with that and many others who would not be. Like that might be a deal breaker.
Oh, sure. It's a deal breaker for many.
Yeah, to many people. Several months later, he met Cari Farver when she brought her car into his shop for maintenance. Dave told ABC about their first interaction. He said, when we looked at each other, there was a little spark. She's showing me something inside the vehicle, and we're standing there, and we're very close. And there was some tension. Now, I have not experienced that in a very long time. If I said anything different, my wife would literally kick my rear end. But I do remember meeting my wife for the very first time. And that's what it felt like. It was just like a spark. I don't know how else to describe it. And we've been together almost more than 30 years. We'll have our 30-year anniversary this year.
See, it's been good to you.
It has. And she has too. A few weeks later, Dave found Cari's online dating profile and asked her out. They hit it off during their first date on October 29, 2012. Dave invited Cari to his apartment after dinner. Cari told him that she wasn't looking for anything serious, which Dave liked because, like we already said, he wasn't ready to be in a committed relationship.
So again, he's found somebody on the same page as him.
Mm-hmm. During their date, Liz Gollier was blowing up Dave's phone. Now, at first, he ignored her. He then responded and said he was on a date and he couldn't answer her. Soon after they arrived at Dave's apartment, Liz started ringing the bell at the security door of Dave's building. Dave left Cari in his apartment and went to speak to Liz. She was crying and insisted Dave let her in so that she could get some of her belongings. He left Liz at the security door so he could explain what was going on to Cari. Cari decided to leave and passed by Liz on her way out. It was a brief encounter. By all accounts, the women didn't even speak to each other.
Yeah. Still kind of awkward, I think.
I would say it's probably a very awkward situation for both women, especially Cari, I would think.
Right. But even Dave probably felt,
oh, I'm in the middle of, you know what?
Exactly.
So, I mean, it sounds to me, Gibbs, like, Dave was meeting women online. He was going out on dates and, maybe doing a little bit more. But when he met Cari, I think he really liked her. And at that point, maybe things had cooled off with Liz some, or he was seeing Cari as superior to Liz. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, maybe he just liked Cari more.
He was definitely still interested in Cari, who lived over an hour away from Omaha in Macedonia, Iowa. When Cari was given a challenging project at work, Dave offered to let her stay with him since her office was just around the corner from his house. And Cari agreed to this arrangement. So I think kind of a fortuitous situation.
Fortuitous.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah.
But, an hour's drive, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, if you really like someone, you're going to make that drive.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
I know some people make much, much further drives.
Absolutely.
To be with the people they care about.
Yeah.
But if you're given the opportunity, which is what sounds like happened here, she gets this job. It's right around the corner from his apartment. So he's like, hey, why don't you just crash with me and it'll save you a bunch of time.
That's right.
We also might
hang out together,
get closer, see where this thing goes. On November 9th or 10th, Cari's vehicle was vandalized with spray paint while parked in Macedonia, Iowa. On the morning of November 13th, 2012, Dave got ready for work, gave Cari a kiss, and told her he'd see her later that evening. Cari left for work after him. Around mid-morning, Dave received a text from Cari asking to move in together, which he thought was very strange because they'd already discussed having just a casual relationship. So, he's offering to let her stay at his apartment, but it's not full time.
Yeah.
It's just, when she drives in, goes to work.
Now he's like, this is getting ramped up a little bit.
Moving in together is essentially 24/7 other than when you're apart from work.
It's a big deal.
Dave said he didn't want to live together. Cari responded per ABC, fine, I hate you. I'm dating someone else. I don't want to see you anymore. Go away. Okay. I think if you're Dave, you're like, what has changed? All of a sudden, we go from seemingly being on the same page.
Right.
About a pretty casual relationship, even though you're staying over, some nights during the week when you're working at your office, to let's move in together. And when he says no, all right, I hate you. I'm already seeing someone else anyway. F off, all that stuff.
Pretty drastic change.
It does seem that way. And I'm sure he had to be scratching his head saying, I don't know what's going on. Cari wasn't at the apartment when Dave got home from work. He never saw her again, but the angry texts continued. On November 15th, Cari started blowing up Dave's phone. According to ABC, one text said, I hate you. You've ruined my life. You're a terrible person. Dave said he was relieved and thought that he had, quote, dodged a bullet.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Well, I think if you put yourself in Dave's perspective, this doesn't seem like the person you thought Cari was.
Right.
She's now ramped things up to a level that you didn't believe they were going to go to, not only about, trying to move in together very quickly, but then becoming hateful pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, I'm sure he's thinking, man, what if we did move in together and all of a sudden this personality came out?
Or got married or, had children or whatever it was.
I'd be stuck.
Cari's mother, Nancy Rainey, had also been receiving strange texts from Cari. Cari told her she got a new job in Kansas. Nancy tried to call, but Cari didn't answer.
Strange.
Yeah, I think definitely strange. We talked about it from Dave's perspective, but now you're talking about it from the perspective of Cari's mother. I don't know how often they talked. I always kind of equate it to how often my wife talks to her mother, which is at least once a day, sometimes multiple times a day.
I know.
And it's never just text messages.
Yeah.
They're speaking together on the phone.
I'm always like, what could somebody say to another person that many times in a day?
Yeah, you and I like each other, but we don't talk every single day.
No, we're good.
On November 15, 2012, Cari texted her employers and told them she was quitting and moving to Texas. On the 16th, Nancy reported Cari missing after she missed a family wedding and failed to pick up her son.
Critical thing right there.
Yeah, I mean, you and I talk about this a lot, especially in the unsolved episodes, where, at what point in time does a family member, really start to get worried, right? There's worry that sets in initially, but there's always something that kind of cements it in a person's mind.
Right.
That something really is going on to the point where they need to, file a missing persons report. And, missing a family wedding is one thing, but not picking up your son,
that's huge.
That's a big deal. And I'm sure her mother knew this wasn't her daughter. This was not like her. When filing the report, Nancy mentioned that Cari had bipolar disorder and was on medication. According to Nancy, the police told her that sometimes people behave erratically when they stop taking their medication. She felt like they weren't taking her report seriously.
Well, maybe they weren't. Once she mentioned that she was taking medication, maybe they just assumed she's off her meds.
And that's what's causing, this type of behavior. And there's no doubt that it could, right, in some situations. But, I do think a lot of times the police get in trouble making too many assumptions. We all know and have talked about the old kind of police line years and years ago, which was somebody goes missing, even those people under 18 years of age. And they're like, they'll be back. They're blowing off steam or something like that. Now, Dave Krupa continued receiving texts and emails over the next 2 years. He would receive tens of thousands of messages.
That is bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about it. I don't do a lot of texting and emailing outside of work, right, for the podcast. I text friends and family sometimes, but tens of thousands, that seems like a lot to me.
I think that would require a new email and a new phone and abandon the old stuff.
With a different number?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the number of texts, but they also became increasingly threatening over time. According to ABC, Cari wrote things like, "I will do what I can to make you suffer. We belong together, Dave. My favorite thing to do is stand outside and stare at you. I hate you so much that I want to drive a knife in your heart. I will destroy your life and take your happiness." So, I mean, there's a stalkerish vibe there for sure.
Sure.
But then there's also a threatening vibe when you say, "I hate you so much, I want to drive a knife in your heart."
It also makes you wonder, and I've said this before, oh, well, you know what? I will take you back.
Yes. Now that you've said all that, I mean, I've got to take you back because you're just proving to me how much you love me.
Yeah, exactly.
By saying these very outlandish and threatening things. Don't let allergy season slow you down. Get common allergy meds for as little as $15 with GoodRx. So you and your family, pets included, can stop allergy symptoms before they start. GoodRx is free and easy to use. Just search for your prescription on the website or the app, compare prices, and get a free coupon to show your pharmacist. Save at over 70,000 local pharmacies nationwide, including Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Publix, Kroger, and many more. Check GoodRx before every trip to the pharmacy to save up to 80% on both brand and generic medications. And did you know GoodRx rewards you for saving money too? Join GoodRx Rewards today and earn points every time you use a coupon. Remember, GoodRx is not insurance, but works whether you have insurance or not. And it could be your insurance copay price. I've been using GoodRx for years, and I can't tell you how many times I have saved money even with my insurance. Stop allergies before they start and save big on allergy medications this season with GoodRx. Go to goodrx.com/TCAT. That's goodrx.com/TCATT. Once the temps start rising, I realized I was back in the same worn out rotation. Same tank, same shorts, same everything. So I gave my daily uniform an upgrade with Quince. Their pieces are easy, elevated, and somehow make me feel more put together without even trying. Like they're 100% European linen shorts and dresses from $30. Luxe swimwear, Italian leather platform sandals, and so much more. The best part, everything with Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middleman, Quince gives you luxury without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I'm getting ready to stock up on shorts for summer from Quince, and I know they're going to be amazing because everything I've ordered has been of the highest quality, and the prices are amazing. Treat your closet to a little summer glow up with Quince. Go to quince.com/TCAT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/TCATT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TCAT. Dave did ultimately change his phone number and email address multiple times, but the messages still kept coming. Okay. Would you be a little freaked out by that?
Absolutely.
How is this person, getting my new phone number? How are they getting my new email? And, this is a person that I went out on X number of dates. She crashed over at my place however many times.
Yeah.
This was not a 9-year love affair.
No.
And she caught me cheating and is very upset. If you think about it from his perspective, this would have to be just unbelievably strange.
And that's where I think it comes in, where he thinks, wow, I really dodged the bullet.
Yeah.
But now he's like, I don't know, how much did I really dodge? Because I'm paying the price for it.
I'm still living through it. Both Dave and the police believed Cari was sending these messages. Dave knew he was being stalked. He told ABC, on one specific occasion, I was sitting in my lazy boy with my feet up, watching TV, trying to relax, and it's nighttime. And I get a text saying, I see you. You're sitting in your chair with your feet propped up, wearing a blue shirt. And those things were all true.
Yeah, right there, I think I would lose my what.
Well, that's going to be a scary thing to anyone, especially when you believe the person sending these has also threatened you.
Right. With a knife in your heart?
Yeah. Cari was also allegedly sending threatening messages to Liz Gollier. Liz told Dave she was receiving harassing texts and emails. One day in November 2012, she called him and said her garage had been vandalized. Someone spray painted "whore from Dave" on the inside. Liz reported this incident to the police. So, it's not just Dave. Liz is getting these strange and sometimes threatening texts and emails, but, she's also having her home vandalized.
Yeah, your personal space has been invaded.
And somebody wrote, something very demeaning about you. Meanwhile, Cari Farver missed her birthday. She missed her son's birthday, Thanksgiving, and even her father's funeral.
Which would be very hard to understand. Miss her birthday, okay. Miss her son's birthday? And miss her dad's funeral?
Well, I mean, to me, if that was, one of my family members, I'm really looking at it from one of two angles. Either this person is really upset and wants nothing to do with not only us, but she doesn't even want anything to do with her son.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because she's not taking her medication. I don't know. Or the alternative is something's happened to her and we just don't know what it is.
Well, that's a good point, right? Because, yeah, she missed her son's birthday, but she hasn't been with her son this whole time.
Yeah. So it's not just missing his birthday.
Yeah.
She's abandoned him. Nancy Rainey received texts from her daughter and pleaded with her to call. The texts to Nancy were cruel, calling her a bad, controlling mother. They were also full of grammar and spelling errors. which wasn't like Cari. And I know you and I have talked about this in other cases. When you communicate with someone either on the phone or especially in texts or emails, you learn over time how that person talks.
Yeah.
And let's focus in on just written communication because that's what we're talking about here. You know, if a person abbreviates everything, you know, if they spell words correctly, you know, I know when I get a text from you, there are going to be some spelling errors. There are also going to be some words that make absolutely no sense.
According to you.
But they're coming from you. It says Gibby on the phone. And so I'm assuming these are you. Now, if I got a text that was talking about, you know, astrophysics and just stuff way above your pay grade, I'm going to have to start to question it. If there's equations in there, there's words that I know for a fact you have no idea not only what they mean, but also how they're spelled.
You're like, either somebody got his phone or he's been drinking a lot.
Or he took one of those pills like in that movie Limitless.
Yes. Yeah.
And now has unlocked like
the full potential.
70% of his brain.
That'd be awesome. And just like you, I know if I receive a text from you with more than one word, it's not you.
It's not me.
Huh, that's weird. He wrote a whole paragraph. That's not Mike. Who is this?
But let's also talk about Nancy, right? This is rough coming from your daughter. You're already worried about her. And now she's sending messages calling you a bad mother. Cari's son, Max, also received messages from her saying she was going to pick him up, but she never did. Now, you talk about what kind of mom would just abandon their child. Not many. It does happen, but not many. What kind of mom is going to go an extended period of time without seeing their child and then repeatedly tell them they're going to pick them up and then never do it?
It's cruel.
It is cruel. In January 2013, Dave was returning home from work and noticed a familiar vehicle parked near his apartment. He realized it was Cari's Ford Explorer. Dave took a picture of the license plate and sent it to the police. When the police searched the car, they found one fingerprint on a mint container. It didn't match Cari's fingerprints, and there were no matches in a national database. 5 months after Cari went missing, a man called Nancy Rainey to tell her he saw Cari at a homeless shelter, and she wanted her mother to pick her up. Nancy and investigators went to the shelter only to learn Cari had never been there. Okay. So who is this guy? Was he put up to this by someone else? Did he do something to Cari? Or is this one of those situations, Gibbs, where someone learns about someone being missing and they just want to mess with the family?
Well, unfortunately, we know that happens.
It does happen. Sick. 6 months after her disappearance, Cari's son, Max, messaged her on Facebook and received a reply. He asked Cari to answer 3 questions to prove she was his mother: his middle name, the name of their first dog, and the name of his best friend. She never responded. It's actually really smart on the part of Max.
Yeah. I'm tired of you toying with me. I want to know if you actually are my mom.
Dave and Liz were still dating on and off, and they were both still receiving hostile texts. It was common for their phones to get texts and emails while they were together. On one occasion, Dave received an email from Cari threatening to kill Liz. The email included a photo of a woman tied up in the trunk of a car. So she sent something to Dave saying, "Hey, I'm going to put a knife through your heart." Sent something to Liz threatening to kill her and included a picture of a woman tied up in the trunk of a car. This is very threatening stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be alarmed.
This is not just, hey, I'm going to kick your ass.
No.
This is, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. I need to go see the authorities and make sure they're aware.
And it went a step further. Cari also sent Dave a link to a fake obituary. for Liz. Liz and Dave broke up in early August 2013. And I can understand why that relationship might have been a little tough to keep going. You know, if you think that there is someone out there who, is very upset at Dave and maybe Liz by extension because she's with Dave, okay, maybe we need to go our separate ways.
Yeah, you don't want harm to come to whoever you're dating at that time either.
On August 17th, Liz's house caught on fire, killing 2 dogs, a cat, and a snake.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's horrible. I mean, there were no people that were injured, but multiple animals were killed. Liz believed Cari was responsible. And Dave and Liz both received emails from her claiming responsibility for the fire. So not too hard, right, to think that she was responsible if she's sending emails saying, yeah, I did that. Dave became so paranoid that he purchased a gun for personal protection.
Well, when your ex-girlfriend's house catches on fire and you have all these threatening messages coming at you, you have to find a way to protect yourself.
You have to start thinking about your personal safety for sure. I mean, if I didn't already own a gun, I'm going out and getting one as soon as I get that text that says, hey, you're in your lazy boy with your feet up, wearing a blue shirt.
Yeah.
That would be enough to freak me out. At one point, Dave's auto shop was vandalized. In January 2014, Dave had a woman over at his apartment. She saw him receive multiple messages and heard someone pulling on the front door handle. When the two of them were laying in bed that night, someone threw a brick through the window.
Well, that'd get you going, won't it?
Well, and it's also going to make you rethink this relationship, especially if it's very, very new. Okay, you're a great guy, but I ain't putting up with this BS.
Yeah, you're just not worth all that.
There's plenty of other guys out there who are not being stalked, who do not have bricks being thrown into their window at night. By 2014, Dave's ex-girlfriend, Amy Flora, and his children were receiving threatening messages. I mean, this is just an escalation, Gibbs, of epic proportions. It was one thing to think that Cari was sending Dave messages, to think that she was sending Liz messages, but now his ex-girlfriend and his kids?
Scary. I mean, you're never going to be okay with anybody messing with your kids.
No, absolutely not. And even though they're exes, I'm sure he still had feelings towards Amy. I mean, let's face it, she was the mother of his children. He doesn't want to see anything happen to her either. In the spring of 2015, detectives Ryan Avis and Jim Doty from the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office in Iowa volunteered to take on the case to try to solve it. Jim Doty decided to work the case as if Cari were dead, and Ryan Avis worked the case as if she were still alive.
Pretty smart way to do that.
No, it seems like a very inventive way to do it. They went through the original case file and noticed there'd been no activity in Cari's bank account the entire time she'd been missing. And I'm telling you, Gibbs, I harp on this in a lot of unsolved cases. Is it possible for someone to kind of go off the grid and just leave behind everything, not access any of their bank accounts or anything like that? Yes, technically it is possible, but it can't be that easy.
It's going to have its challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Detective Avis couldn't find any evidence to prove Cari was still alive. Liz Gollier stuck out to Detective Jim Doty. She and Cari didn't really know each other, but Liz's name was in many police reports connected to the case, which made her a person of interest. The team asked a digital forensics administrator to get involved. Investigator Anthony Cava told ABC, "We knew these messages don't seem to really be coming from Cari Farver. Cari or the imposter who was pretending to be Cari sent Dave about 15,000 email messages over a 3-year span. It might have been upwards of 25,000 or 50,000 texts in all. So whoever was pretending to be Cari got more and more sophisticated in what they were doing to try to hide their IP address, to try to hide their real identity.
That's so many text messages.
I get it. It's over 3 years, but I feel like your phone would just be blowing up constantly.
Yeah. Non-stop.
And for me, that would be very unnerving to have to check your phone every time you hear the little ding.
Yeah. Go to bed, wake up, and it says, you have 1,200
Yeah, that would
text
be
messages or something.
overwhelming for me. Back in 2013, Dave and Liz agreed to have the content of their phones downloaded. Liz's phone data included a photo of Cari's vehicle. The metadata showed the picture was taken on December 24th, 2012, before the vehicle was found, which meant Liz knew where it was before the police did. The data also indicated that on November 6th and 7th of 2012, Liz made 6 calls to Cari's home landline using the *67 prefix to disguise the number.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're the detectives, your ears got to perk up at that, right? What does this mean? Detectives wondered why Liz would call Cari 6 times when she said she only met her once in passing. Investigators also found the photo of the woman who was tied up, which was emailed to Dave from Cari. However, this photo was taken by Liz's phone. Liz's phone data included a video that was uploaded to YouTube on the account Farver. The video showed an apartment complex that looked like Dave Krupa's. So, I mean, I think at this point, detectives got to be wondering, right? What is going on with Liz? Could she be behind, some of the stuff that's been going on? The IP address used to access the account belonged to a guy named Todd Butterball, who happened to be a man Liz had been seeing since September 2010. Todd and Liz were together until September 2015. He thought that they were exclusive, but she was seeing Dave during their relationship.
He was probably like, all right, I'm out of here.
Yeah, once he found that out, I'm sure. Todd helped Liz with her bills, helped her buy a car, and let her and her kids move in with him at one point. Todd also received messages from Cari Farver in January 2013. She said she was friends with Liz, and Liz had given her his number in case of an emergency. When Todd asked Liz about Cari, she said they were friends. And again, this is so strange because to everyone else, these were 2 people that met briefly in passing one time.
Right.
At Dave's apartment.
So how could she be friends?
Todd didn't learn about Dave Krupa until Liz's phone data was downloaded. Liz told him she dated Dave before she met him, and they remained friends. All the we're just friends line.
We're just friends.
Used by many, many cheaters over the years.
Yeah.
During the 2 years Todd and Liz lived together, from July 2013 to the end of 2015, Liz never mentioned that she was being harassed by Cari. Now, how strange would that be? I mean, we've talked about the level of harassment here, the level of text, emails. You wouldn't confide in your partner that was going on?
You would think you would.
Liz became a person of interest, and investigators started believing she was posing as Cari. As mentioned by Anthony Cava earlier, Liz did a pretty decent job hiding her trail. She used applications and digital proxies to conceal her IP addresses, which made it more difficult to trace her online and phone activity to her home. Cava told A&E, for instance, she was using a website that allowed her to send emails and text messages on a certain day and time when she was with Dave Krupa. They would both receive messages at the same time from Cari. Now, why is that important?
Well, I think it works great, right? Because now it makes it look like Cari sending them.
Yeah, I mean, if you and I are out to dinner, we're sitting across from each other, we're eating some wings, we're drinking a beer, and our phones go off at the same time.
Right.
Pretty obvious that neither one of us sent that to the other because our phones are sitting there on the table.
Yeah, you didn't see me type anything in. I didn't see you type anything in.
Pretty sneaky.
It is. But that whole time, you know what I'm thinking at that table?
Why is Ferguson even out of his basement?
Well, that's a good thought too. But I'm like, who's paying
for this dinner? You know, even the smallest step forward can make a big difference in your financial future. When you open a Chime checking account, you're one step closer to a better financial future with no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Making progress has never been easier. I think we've all been in that position where we've had an overdraft. Well, with Chime, you can overdraft up to $200 with no fees. That's amazing. And they have over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. Make progress towards a better financial future with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/TCAT. That's chime.com/TCATT. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs. MyPay eligibility requirements apply. Credit limits range from $20 to $500. $2 fee applies to get funds instantly. Crime checking account required. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details.
Hey, listeners. It's Leon Nafok. I'm here to tell you about a brand new series from me and Prologue Projects, an Audible original series called Final Thoughts, Jerry Springer, the story of a television show that changed the world and the man who gave it his name. But did you know that before the Jerry Springer Show made him notorious all over the world, Springer was something else entirely? A respected Midwestern politician, the progressive mayor of a major Rust Belt city, a man many saw as a future leader in Democratic politics. How did this idealistic rising star, with his lofty political ambitions, take a turn in such a radically different direction? You can find the whole series available now on Audible. Just search for Final Thoughts, Jerry Springer on the Audible app, or go to audible.com/Springer.
Liz had also set up more than 24 fake email addresses with some variation of Cari's name. Kava estimated that Liz spent 40 to 50 hours a week impersonating Cari.
Talk about obsession.
40 to 50 hours a week.
Wow.
You could get a second full-time job.
Yeah.
Not that anyone would want one, but if you had to have one. Kava developed a program to narrow down a list of top IP addresses linked to the threatening emails. One of the IP addresses traced back to Liz's home that burned down in August 2013. The detective spoke to Nancy Rainey in May 2015. This was the first time someone told her they did not think Cari left of her own free will. And that had to be a very emotional conversation. Because I don't think Nancy ever thought Cari left of her own free will.
No.
So to hear that kind of corroboration, that now the police are believing that might be the case as well, that had to be a big deal for her.
I think so. What a relief that would have been to have somebody on your side now.
Well, and also maybe investigating the case through that lens would make a big difference. But Nancy also provided a new piece of information. In 2012, she received a text from Cari saying she sold all her furniture. Cari asked her mother to let the buyer into her house to pick it up. Afterwards, she received a photo of a check that was made out to Cari and signed by Shanna Gollier.
Okay.
So this further linked Liz to the disappearance. The 2015 investigative team also determined that the fingerprint found in Cari's vehicle matched Liz Gollier. You know who's not looking good right now?
Liz
Gollier. On December 4th, 2015, Liz walked into the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office and said she was there to file a harassment complaint against Amy Flora, Dave's ex. After she left the station, Detective Ryan Avis drove to her house to interview her, saying it was about the complaint. Liz told Avis she thought Amy Flora was sending the messages and pretending to be Cari. So Avis asked if he could download her phone data a second time to review the messages. Liz agreed. During their conversation, Liz mentioned she knew Dave's gun was missing and thought that Amy stole it. She identified the exact type of gun he had, but was pretty vague when asked further questions. Dave had reported his gun stolen during the investigation. On December 5th, 2015, soon after Dave and Liz decided to take another break, Liz was shot in the leg while walking alone at night in the Big Lake Park in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Liz said she drove to the park at 6 p.m. and parked near a walking trail. She walked for a short distance and sat down on a bench. While she was sitting, a female voice ordered her to lie down and made a vulgar comment. The suspect didn't demand anything from her and made no further statements before shooting her. Liz said she didn't know who the shooter was, but suspected it was Amy Flora. And again, Amy was Dave's ex, right? The mother of his children. They had not been together for some time.
Right.
I mean, is it out of the question that she could be upset about, the new person in Dave's life? No, not out of the question. But if she still wanted Dave, she probably wouldn't have left. It just doesn't seem like a situation where, she leaves the relationship and then all of a sudden she's so jealous she's going to shoot this woman that's in his life.
It's unlikely. It's not impossible.
Right. That's why I say that. I never rule anything out. Investigators determined Liz most likely shot herself. Amy Flora was cleared the evening of the shooting. So pretty quickly, right? They realized it wasn't her. Liz was brought in for another interview 2 weeks after she was shot. She continued pushing for the detectives to look at Amy Flora, unaware at this point that she was the main suspect. So, she's doing all of these things, including shooting herself in the leg, right? To try to get this attention off of her. And it sounds like mainly onto Dave's ex, Amy Flora. That's a pretty big step to take, shooting yourself in the leg.
That's dedication right there.
Now, you want to fake an email or a text or, throw a brick through your own window, maybe spray paint a vulgar comment on your own house. That's one thing.
Sure.
But you're really taking a step further when you shoot yourself to make it look as though someone's out to get you.
But if you went too extreme with something earlier, like murdering somebody,
then you would take some extreme steps to try to not get caught.
Yeah.
Detectives Doty and Avis told Liz they believed her and they wanted her help incriminating Amy. They asked Liz to reach out to Amy to see if she would tell her anything about Cari. Almost immediately, Liz fabricated emails she claimed were from Amy. In these emails, Amy confessed to the shooting. The detectives continued pushing Liz to ask Amy for details about Cari's murder. A few days later, Liz forwarded an email allegedly from Amy admitting she stabbed Cari 3 or 4 times and put her body in a garbage bag. Now, as time passed, Liz became upset that Amy had not been arrested, right? She's providing them this valuable information, Gibbs, right? Incriminating Amy Flores. Why have the police not, arrested her? Detective Jim Doty told Liz they needed more information from Amy that only the killer would know. And it was just within hours of this conversation that Liz forwarded more confession emails, allegedly from Amy, mentioning that Cari was stabbed to death in her own vehicle.
Conveniently, they get this email.
Yeah. It's all of it's very convenient. But, as you look at what the detectives are doing, number one, they're trying to catch Liz in a trap, right? They already suspect her, but they're playing her essentially by saying, yeah, we believe you. We think Amy did it. We just need your help. But what are they really getting Liz to do? Provide details about the murder that only the killer would know.
Once it's proven that Liz is sending these emails, then it pretty much shows that Amy's not the killer. It's Liz.
Yeah, I think they did a really kind of masterful job of playing her because she doesn't know what they know. And she's giving them information that she probably wouldn't if she thought they were looking at her as the killer. Investigators decide to go back and search Cari's car for a third time on February 18, 2016. This time they pulled a fabric seat cover off the passenger seat and found a red stain, which was determined to be Cari's blood. Because the murder most likely occurred in Omaha, local detective Dave Schneider brought Liz in for questioning and confronted her with all the evidence against her. Liz denied knowing anything about Cari's murder and said she didn't even have internet. First of all, this is not the early 1990s.
No.
Or the mid 1990s. This is the late 2010s. How many people did not have internet at that point in time? During the interrogation, detectives Jim Doty and Ryan Avis searched Liz's apartment. They found some of Cari's belongings, including her digital camera and camcorder, 2 days before she disappeared. Cari used the camcorder to record a video of herself talking about how someone vandalized her car. According to court documents, other items found in Liz's possession included LG cell phones, a black and white floral shower curtain that matched the description of the one purchased at the discount store with Farver's debit card on November 16, 2012. And this is something that you and I go back and forth about in many episodes. Someone who has committed, a horrible crime, then decides to just keep a whole bunch of incriminating evidence lying around their place.
I can never figure that out.
No, me neither. It's hard to prove this is not Cari's camcorder. There's a video of her on there.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. On December 22nd, 2016, Liz was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. It took a while for Liz to really fully be on the radar. And then once she was, the police were really tactful about, how they went about gathering their evidence.
Yeah.
They're pretty smart about it.
They are.
And they took their time, but I think it was well worth it. On January 18, 2017, Liz was ordered to stand trial for murder. A week later, Liz pleaded not guilty and waived her right to a jury trial. The defense believed the judge would move through the evidence faster and wouldn't be distracted by claims that Liz impersonated Cari. The defense argued there was no evidence Cari was dead, which is going to be a defense argument in a nobody case.
Sure.
There's no way that the defense cannot make that argument.
They have to.
That it has to come up. A few months before trial, Dave Krupa remembered he had a tablet in storage, and he gave it to investigators. Inside the tablet was an SD card that had been in Liz's phone around the time of Cari's disappearance. The card contained thousands of deleted images. One photo showed a human foot with a tattoo of the Chinese character for the word mother. And Cari's mother, Nancy Rainey, confirmed that Cari had that tattoo. A medical examiner viewed the image and determined the foot did belong to a deceased person. And that is huge. right? The defense is saying, well, how do you even know that Cari Farver is no longer alive? Now, all of a sudden, Liz apparently has pictures of Cari Farver's foot after she was deceased.
Which, if you're the defense, you're going, oh shit.
But again, just because you delete something, right? How many times have we talked about this? It doesn't mean that it's gone forever.
That's true.
It doesn't mean that it can't be recovered sometimes.
There's certain things you have to do to make sure that it's actually deleted.
Well,
non-recoverable.
But here's my thing. Why did Liz feel the need to take these pictures in the first place?
Well, maybe she's kind of like some of the serial killers we talk about. They need to have some
reminder / trophy. It could be. It's not smart, though. It never is.
It's not.
I mean, obviously murder is not smart, but also keeping a bunch of different things that conclusively prove you're the killer is not a smart thing to do.
And clearly it bit her in the ass.
Liz Golyer's non-jury trial started on May 10th, 2017. The prosecution argued that Cari was murdered by Liz. Her motive was jealousy over Dave Krupa. Liz confessed to the murder when she was impersonating Amy Flora via email. She wrote that she stabbed Cari and burned her body, wrapped her remains in a tarp, and put them in the garbage. The defense countered that the evidence wasn't enough to support a murder conviction, especially because Cari's body had never been found. They noted that at one point, Liz was considered a victim too. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. Liz was considered a victim, right? Her house burned down.
Yeah.
She was allegedly receiving all of these, threatening texts and emails, much like Dave was. I think I remember seeing in the research that she even moved in with Dave after her house burned down, which might have been, a little convenient.
She did a really good job at trying to make it look like she was being stalked and under attack by Cari.
However, the evidence against her was overwhelming. On May 24th, 2017, Liz Golyer was found guilty of first-degree murder. Judge Timothy Burns said, per WOWT, Cari Farver did not voluntarily disappear and drop off the face of the earth. Very sadly, she was murdered. The court finds beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant intentionally killed Cari Farver with deliberate and premeditated malice. So, I didn't talk about it when we started talking about the trial, but, waiving your right to a jury trial and taking your chances with the judge. I can see in some scenarios why that might make sense. I mean, I'm assuming her defense thought, hey, this is our best route. Maybe the jury gets prejudiced based on, the sending of the text and the email so much that nothing else matters. Ultimately, it really didn't matter. The judge saw through everything.
And I think it'd be hard not to see through it all.
Yeah, I think a jury would have come to the same conclusion. On August 15, 2017, Liz Golyer was sentenced to life in prison for murder and 18 to 20 years for arson. And it did come out, Gibbs, that Liz Golyer burned down her own house, killing her pets.
Yeah, it's sick.
You talk about taking this thing as far as it can go. Not only did you murder a woman in the course of trying to make it look like you didn't, you burned your own house down and killed your pets.
And at one point shot yourself.
Liz's appeal was denied on November 9th, 2018. Dave Krupa has kept a pretty low profile in recent years and lives in Nebraska with his girlfriend.
I bet he has kept a low profile.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
I mean, it's not something that you really want to advertise, right? He didn't do anything wrong, really, but Now, he did appear in the 2024 documentary, Lover, Stalker, Killer, and said he felt some responsibility because, according to him, a lot of bad things happen to good people, all because of a series of events that I'm at the center of. I'm very sorry for what happened. If I hadn't met Cari, she wouldn't have met Liz, and this all wouldn't have happened. If I'd have known the choice was this craziness or tell Cari I'm not interested, I would have told Cari I'm not interested. But you don't get that choice.
And he's right.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. Now, you and I both watched this documentary. It was very good.
Yeah.
And I knew from the time I saw it that I wanted to cover this case. And, I think, as does happen in a lot of these situations, the people involved, and I'm speaking specifically here about Dave, he's going to feel guilt. He's going to feel remorse. I mean, you heard him say it. If I hadn't met Cari, she would have never died.
Right.
But he's in no way responsible for that. And he probably deep down knows it. But it doesn't change the fact that, there's guilt there that probably eats at him.
Yeah, I'm sure it bugs him. It's somebody that was nice to him, that he may had some feelings for. That,
I think he did.
Yeah. And he also realizes that because of all this stuff going on, Cari's son no longer has a mom. And him being a parent, he gets that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But this was Liz Gollier and Liz Gollier alone.
Absolutely.
I mean, he had nothing to do, and there's no way he could have known that she was going to, take this avenue.
It's just jealousy to the extreme, right?
Oh my gosh. It's to the extreme for sure. This was a pretty lengthy, complex case, but investigators have said they're glad they were able to restore Cari Farver's reputation, which had been tarnished due to Liz's actions. I mean, really, if you think about it, Cari Farver lost her life, which is absolutely tragic. But if they don't solve this mystery, then not only is she dead and no one knows for sure, but she's also thought of as a stalker and a harasser. On top of that, she's a mother who abandoned her son and wants nothing to do with, her family, her son, all of this. And solving this case kind of wraps all that up and proves that no, she wasn't that person. She was killed by, someone who was, went to some of the most lengthy extremes we've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. But at least Cari's mom, Cari's son, they know what happened.
And they also know that she didn't abandon them. And, for a mom and a son, those are two big things.
Sure. But this Liz, wow.
Yeah. I mean, as we wrap this one up, like I said, I haven't dated for a very, very long time. I hope to never, ever have to date again.
And your wife would be shaking her head. You're damn right.
Well, she might be saying you might if you don't get your you-know-what together.
Well, that's true.
And here's the reason why. Truthfully, anytime you meet someone new, there is no way that you can truly know what that person is capable of or what they're going to do in a given situation.
It's very true.
I mean, you think about Dave, he's meeting women on an online dating site. Okay. I think he even said in the documentary, he was having fun. He had been in a relationship for a while. Now he was single. He was, doing his thing.
Yeah.
But you're meeting a bunch of different people and you have no idea what they're capable of.
Yeah, I think you have to go through a year or so to really understand somebody and go through the cycles of life to really see what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, definitely some ups and downs. Yeah. How does that person handle different situations? not just when everything is going great, but hard times as well.
Exactly.
But that's not what he wasn't looking for long-term relationships. So
he was clear about it.
And he was upfront. He didn't lie to people. It sounds like he just happened to run into someone who, went to some levels that you don't see very often.
And you hope no one ever has to see.
No, absolutely. That's it for our episode on the murder of Cari Farver. We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hi guys, g'day from WA. I'm Kylie from Perth, Western Australia, and I've been listening to your podcast since I came across it earlier this year. It's a great way to pass the time on my driving trips to Albany in our southwest, which is 5 hours away from me, but has recently been voted Australia's most beautiful spot, so be sure to check it out. My dad lives in a nearby suburb called Emu Point, so that's why I go often. Have to say, I love it when you do the occasional Aussie story. The first one I listened to was David and Catherine Burney, which happened here where I live. I was hoping you might cover the story of Stacey Mitchell, aka the body in the wheelie bin, which also happened here in Perth. I personally knew one of the killers through my work, and they are incarcerated with Catherine Burney right now. I also wanted to know, do you guys do this as a full-time job? Because it must take a hell of a lot of time to produce the amount you have. Thanks for your content and keep your own time ticking.
Well, good day.
That wasn't bad.
Pretty good.
No, that was terrible.
I switched it up,
I know you did. I think the week off might have helped your accents a little bit.
Raise the lights.
You're still not saying it, Kirk.
Maybe it's because I was watching that Mad Max saga.
Was somebody in there Australian?
Yeah. There was a lot of Australian actors in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are they speaking with accents? Because there's a lot of British actors now, a lot of English actors who don't.
That's very true.
they use American accents, but hey, we appreciate the voicemail very much.
We do.
So to answer your last question, and we will look at that suggestion for TCAP, but I do the podcast full time. Gibby still has a full time job, and then kind of fills in when he can. Meaning he comes over to my house once a week
And eats
to
for
record,
free.
eats my food, and records. But yeah, we get it done. It is a lot of work.
It is.
No doubt about it.
Well, hello, Mike and Gibby. This is Sarah from Florida, and I am in a very odd position right now as I have just gotten all caught up with true crime all the time. So I had said to myself, once I finally get caught up, I will call and leave you a voicemail. So here I am, and here is your voicemail. I've been a listener for about 2 years. I started listening when I was looking for a podcast covering the Alex Murdaugh trial. And even though I don't think you guys covered that, I was listening around to different podcasts, I found yours, and I just absolutely fell in love. I started out listening to Unsolved and just kept on with regular TCAT. So I definitely have more to say, but I'll keep this first voicemail short. Thank you for all you do. And I have to tell you, I am either Team TCAT or Team Gibby. I'm not sure. Definitely wouldn't be the same without one or the other of you. But my boyfriend, even though he claims not to be a fan of true crime, he has listened enough with me to be Team Fergie. So here we are. Thank you again. I'm sure I'll be calling again in the future. And I look forward to the next episode. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Well, clearly she needs to get a new boyfriend.
Well, I don't know what his name is, but he's a keeper.
I don't know about that. No.
He's a smart guy. I would lock him down.
I don't know what the heck he's thinking.
Oh, that's funny. But we appreciate the voicemail.
We do. We do.
All right, buddy. We didn't have any mailbags, so and I actually haven't checked here lately, so there might be some there that we'll talk about next week. But with the holidays and stuff,
you're a pretty busy guy.
I was pretty busy.
Yeah.
That's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking in 2025.
Man.
It was over 30 years ago that Clifford Olson first called me. Secret phone calls from Canada's most notorious serial killer.
I knew I was killing the children, but I couldn't stop myself.
Now it's time to unearth the tapes, because I believe there are still answers to be found. I'm Arlene Bynum from CBC's Uncover, Calls from a Killer. Available now.